In the NBA, there aren't many trends that have survived throughout history, but one is that no NBA team down 3-0 in a playoff series has ever come back to win. So, in honor of the Warriors going up 3-0 and the Cavs winning Game 4, I'm going to be sharing with you 3 NBA teams that almost blew a 3-0 lead. What's up guys, my name is Mark, and as we all know, going down 3-0 in an NBA playoff series usually marks the death of that team. First, we're going to talk about the history of the NBA playoffs, how that relates to 3-0 leads, and then we're going to talk about the specific teams that almost came back. The NBA is over 70 years old, and during the course of those 70 years, especially as the NBA has added teams, the structure of the playoffs has switched quite a couple times. Before 1975, there were only 3 rounds in the NBA playoffs, and when they initially added the first round, it was a best-of-3 series. In 1984, they extended the first round to become a best-of-5 series, which is why if you dig into the playoff records of the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, you'll find some 3-0 sweeps. Finally, in 2003 is when they made the first round a 7-game series, just like the other rounds. Okay, so based off the fact that 2 decades of playoff basketball were played with a best-of-5 series in the first round, it already gives you an idea as to how absurd it seems to the NBA rule makers for a team to come back down 3-0. The playoffs are supposed to determine who is the better team, and losing your first 3 games to another team is a pretty good indication that you're not as good as the other team. Now, in NBA history, there have been 10 teams that have been down 3-0 and have managed to force a Game 6. Most noteworthy of those teams are the 1996 Supersonics that forced the Bulls to a Game 6 after being down 3-0 in the NBA Finals, and while that Sonics team was an all-time great team, they were up against the machine that was the 72-win 96 Michael Jordan-led Bulls. So, what about Game 7s? Well, out of those 10 teams that have forced a Game 6, 3 teams in NBA history have ever forced a Game 7 in the NBA playoffs. The first time it happened was in 1951. Yeah, you read that right, 1951. New York Knicks versus the Rochester Royals in the 1951 NBA Finals. We're not going to talk about the series too much because unfortunately we do not have any tape of this game and no news articles to read, and looking at the box score, nothing really stands out. The Rochester Royals were led by their best player, Hall of Famer Arnie Rison, who scored 24 points in Game 7 to beat the Knicks by 4 points. The second team to ever force a Game 7 down 3-0 was the 1994 Denver Nuggets. They were faced with a 3-0 deficit in the conference semifinals against the Utah Jazz, and boy oh boy was this team overmatched. For this entire 7-game series, nobody on the Nuggets averaged more than 16 points per game. Their leading scorer was Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, who's never made an all-star team and was known mostly for being one of the best free throw shooters of all time. Now, despite all of this, they miraculously won games 4, 5, and 6 by an average margin of only 4 points. Dikembe Mutombo, who was probably their best overall player, had an incredible Game 6 where he had 23 points, 12 rebounds, and 5 blocks. He would go on to average 5.4 blocks for the entire series. However, they would lose 81-91 to the Jazz in Game 7 behind Karl Malone's 31-point performance. The Utah Jazz would then go on to lose to the eventual champions, the Houston Rockets, in the conference finals. And finally, the last team that forced a Game 7 was the 2003 Portland Trail Blazers. Similar to the Nuggets, the Portland Trail Blazers did not have a definitive superstar on their team. Their best player in the regular season was Rasheed Wallace, but Wallace was outshined in the series by teammate Bonzi Wells, who averaged more points, more rebounds, and more assists than him, and had a heroic 45-point performance in Game 2 that they still managed to lose. It looked all but over for the Blazers as they were faced against a prime Dirk Nowitzki that had scored 42 points in Game 1 and 46 points in Game 3. But the Blazers blew out the Mavericks by 19 in Game 4, escaped Game 5 with a 4-point victory led by 22 points and 9 rebounds from Zach Randolph, and blew out the Mavs again by 22 points in Game 6. But in Game 7, the Blazers lost 95-107 as they shot 42% from the field and Dirk Nowitzki dropped 31 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 blocks to seal the series. So why is it so damn hard to come back down 3-0? Well, let's think about it this way. Suppose in any series, both teams are evenly matched, where each team has a 50% chance to win any game. A team jumps out to a 3-0 lead, and B team would have to win 4 games in a row. So statistically speaking, the chances of Team B winning the series is 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5, which is 6.25%. But that estimation is way higher than it should be because usually the team that jumps out to a 3-0 lead is a lot better than the team that they just beat 3 times in a row. So look at this from another angle. For a team to have a better than 50% chance, so in other words, a majority chance, to go up 3 games in a row on another team, they would have to have an average win probability of 80% in each individual game. So B team that has to come back down 3-0 now has to win 4 games in a row, where their percentage chance of winning each individual game is 20%. So 0.2 times 0.2 times 0.2 times 0.2 is now 0.0016, or in terms that we can better understand it, 1 in 625. So that's why no one has ever come back in a series where they're down 3-0. Alright guys, that is it for today's video. Thank you for watching. I had a lot of fun researching this, had a lot of fun making this because it's a topic that I was curious about, and I'm sure a lot of you are curious about as well. If you're already a subscriber, thank you for the support. You guys are the best. If you're not a subscriber already, consider subscribing because there's a lot of NBA content on this channel. Got interesting topics like this one, free agency coming up in 2017, off-season previews, season previews, all of that stuff, all here at MDJ, where we talk everything NBA. Peace.
Feeling kinda strange, feeling kinda off. Don't know what's really going on. I feel like something's up and I can only guess the cause. It doesn't matter when, doesn't matter where.